Привет, мои дорогие друзья! Нет ничего прекраснее приступить к новому путешествию. Сейчас я буду направляться в сторону городка Ocean View. Там живут мои друзья, которые построили домик из такой вот набитой такой вот грязью и набитой всякими такими камушками с водой, вот такими мешками. Вот это супер интригующе. Я очень хочу взглянуть на это и, конечно, поделиться с вами. Вот. Я всегда очень счастлив отправиться в путь, так что надеюсь, вам понравится это путешествие. Буду останавливаться иногда и снимать некоторые виды по дороге. Поехали! Выезжаем на фривей. Это называется Hawaii Belt. Это флажок дайверов. Налево идет деревенька Халуалоа, где машина стоит, поворот 3 мили вверх туда по горе. Улочка Пуа-Пуа-Ануи идет вот в этот нейборхуд прекрасный. Конечно, все начинает постепенно зеленеть. Видите, с подъемом на гору начинает все постепенно зеленеть. Все больше и больше зелени становится. Здесь даже находится небольшой театрик. Однажды я присутствовал здесь на игре актеров. Вот он называется Aloha Theater. Театр Алоха. Вот тут видите Miracle Worker какое-то выступление. Через 1 милю видите вот этот H указатель. Это означает, что hospital там находится. Ну, паркинг вы знаете. Blue Ginger Gallery. Здесь работает женщина одна, мы с ней познакомились, наверное, где-то около полугода назад. Вот. Такие там старинные всякие. Идет час пик. Очень много машин. И с каждым разом их становится все больше и больше. Такое вот все зелененькое уже. Кофейнка называется Royal Kona Coffee. Если будете здесь, я вам очень рекомендую сюда вот заехать, потому что здесь можно прямо зайти и посмотреть, как делается кофе. И туда можно подняться, оттуда открывается офигенный вид. Здесь есть такой вот домик. Домик на дереве. Все, на этом закончилась зеленая полоса. Теперь начинается вот такая полоса, где живут такие деревья. Они называются охия. И, в принципе, лава. Вот так это все выглядит. Это уже мы подъезжаем ближе к Ocean View. Но еще все равно достаточно много ехать. Минимум миль, наверное, 20-30. Здесь нужно нам повернуть на Алоха бульвар с и Олани. Вот висит такой забавный Микки Маус. И, друзья, аплодисменты. Мы на месте, потому что я уже вижу домик Хоббита. Сейчас мы поспрашиваем мистера Рика о том, как он приехал сюда, как он построил свой дом. Сейчас мы находимся возле него. Он сделал его из таких вот мешочков, которые набивал вот этим синдером, вот такой породой вот красной вот этой, и смешивал с цементом, и все это вот так выложил. Вот он называет это Хоббит Хаус, домик Хоббита. с желтой дверью. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today our friend Rick Stark here. Actually, we here at his house in Ocean View, Hawaii, and Mr. Rick came to Hawaii in 1987. It was 30 years ago, and he built this very interesting house that I briefly showed to you. So, Mr. Rick, can you please tell your story? How did you come here, and what made you to build this very interesting structure?
Sure, thank you. I want to start with something we spoke about a little bit earlier, not on camera. Thanking you, Mikhail, and our friend Chris.
Yeah.
Last evening are the first guest that I've had in my new home. And last evening I got tired and went to bed about 9 o'clock while the three of you, Andrew and you and Chris, sat up in my new living room for a couple hours talking, and I drifted in and out of being aware and listening, just barely out of earshot of your conversation. It was such a joy to my heart.
Great.
That's what this whole thing is going to be about, is heart. Because this journey is so amazing. Thank you for being that first guest.
Yeah, of
to
course.
come and visit, eat dinner, share conversation, smoke, and fun, and then sleeping and rising and morning walk and sunshine. We're doing an interview real early this morning because in Ocean View up on top, where I live, we get sunshine about 300 days a year from dawn until sometime between 9 and 10. And the next interview will probably be in the clouds. I moved here 30 years ago. You already said that. I came in 1986 on a winter vacation in March from Minnesota, where I had then lived 19 years, college and after. Loving the North Woods, loving summers and springs, and jogging and biking and all the lakes and fishing and camping and canoeing in the Boundary Waters. Minnesota is a wonderful, wonderful place. 3 or 4 months of the year. Winters are fully 7 months long. I'm not a winter person. At that time, they didn't have that diagnosis called SAD, seasonal affective disorder. That came along maybe in the 90s that I started hearing that diagnosis. I definitely suffered from SAD syndrome every year in Minnesota for 2 or 3 months, and it majorly brought me down at the end of winter. So I had searched. I had gone to the Northwest. It was too rainy, too wet. I had gone to California several times, tried to find a place in California. It was too populous, too many people, too many cars, too much urban clutter. And in 1986, my then renter roommate, now my longest and best, one of arguably my best friend, called me on a Sunday morning and said, "Rick, the newspaper, 2 weeks, flight and hotel in Waikiki for $550. 2 hours later, I had time off from work on a Sunday morning. I had called my boss and had reason, and we came the end of March to Waikiki. I spent 10 days there, 2 days on Kauai, hiking the Kalalau Trail. On the fourth morning, sitting at the breakfast table, I looked across the table at my friend Chuck. I said, "I just have to say it out loud. This is my home. I'm moving." I had just recently purchased a home in Minneapolis. I had been given promotion as director of my physical therapy department, first time in my life. I had extensive friends, and my family was a state away nearby. It took me a year, and in August of '87, I had sold my home, served my 1 year as director of my PT department, and made the move to Hawaii.
Did you move straight to Big Island or you moved to
No.
Kauai?
I lived. I had lived for 20 years in St. Paul and Minneapolis, so I thought city would be better and that it would be too isolating in the country. So I went to Honolulu and lived there. I had a dual residence for 7 years, but most of my work and time were in Honolulu on Oahu for 14 years. I moved full time to Big Island in 2005. After a brief, I had gone back to the mainland, to the Midwest for a year and a half.
And what did you do in Honolulu?
I'm a physical therapist, retired now. When I came to Hawaii, the opportunity presented to me was in the field of home health, which is a wonderful way for me to come to this. You know, Hawaii is this unique place in all of the world. It's part of the United States of America. It's the 50th state. It is not America. This place is its own heart and soul that the world so loves and calls paradise. Your interview with Drew, I'm reminded, he talks about people coming to paradise looking for paradise here. I didn't come here looking for paradise. In fact, one of my mottos, slogans that I've said for 30 years, I did not move to Hawaii to live in haole heaven. Haole are what we call, it's a slang term. Haole means without breath. The local people seeing the first missionaries, the first people coming here, you know, the Hawaiians wake up and 4 gigantic, huge, deep breaths to begin the day. When they have a prayer, huge breath, and then let it go, and these Christians come and sit in their pious little seats and turn everything in and ask God to do it all. So they saw us as people that didn't use our breath, which is life in Hawaiian. Ola and ha. Breath and life they're inseparable. So we the slang today is haoles are white people that weren't born here, that didn't come from here. I've been here 30 years, and I perpetually say that I'm almost kama'aina, person of the land. When you are born somewhere else and come to Hawaii, no matter how much you embrace it, take it into your heart, make it your home, part of you're always almost kama'aina. I respect that. Even though this is my heart home. And now, as we're going to see in some of our interviews here, my real home.
So how did you get this idea about building specifically this type of home?
I guess our interviews won't focus. I have another major passion in life, which is Hawaiian quilting.
Okay.
19 years ago, I was taken under wing and adopted. In Hawaiian, we call it hanaid, by a Hawaiian woman whom I went and begged. I had a profound dream in which I was told, you must learn Hawaiian quilting. And I went to my Auntie Vi and asked her, and she said no and refused me, as most Hawaiian kumu teachers will do when someone casually says, will you teach me something? Their first response is usually, well, go think about it. I went back 3 times and begged Auntie, please teach me Hawaiian quilting. She consented. I thought I was going to enter into instruction with this Hawaiian woman to learn a craft of needle and thread to make quilts. Auntie took me into her heart and changed who I am fundamentally, so deeply. I owe that woman so much. In 2012, it would have been about 14 years I had been doing my Hawaiian quilting. And it had become my mission. When I discovered quilting, now I know why I live. Now I know what my life, what this time here in this body in this lifetime is for. It's to make these treasured quilts. And I was still working physical therapy, full-time job. I could only quilt early in the morning and in the evening. And my heart was just full of this passion. So I retired at age 62 when I could first get Social Security. It wasn't enough to live on, but it's all I make. So that part of life has been a challenge now since 2012, how to make do with less than I need, so that I can follow my passion. Which leads us to this place. This is a 1-acre property in one of probably half a dozen subdivisions on the Big Island where land and house are truly affordable. You know, in average terms in Hawaii today, we call affordable housing anything that's about $500,000. That's affordable housing. Affordable to who? So some of us who don't consider $500,000 affordable venture into these outlying places. Hawaiian Ocean View Estates is one of those. I have purchased a lot from a friend who lived at that time right next door and had 2 lots. We formed a friendship, and I bought this land and determined that I would build my home and live here at 4,600 feet elevation. The ocean's out there. I don't imagine you might be able to imagine where it is. You can't see it real well. It's probably 12 to 15 miles away. I've never figured it out by the crow. But, okay, I've got an acre of land way up on the mountain where it clouds up and gets misty and cold, and there's winds that come across, and we're far from, there's no electric, there's no phone, there's no sewer. How am I going to live here? So I went online and started researching. This is in 2009 when I first purchased this property, and started looking for alternative housing. When I first clicked on a link to Earthbag House, what came up was the most prominently and well-known and well-advertised one called the Honey House, somewhere I think in Utah, built by a couple who then wrote an instructional book. It's my Earthbag book from them is like people talk about their Bibles being so worn that the pages are smudged from fingerprints and worn edges. That's how my Earthbag Bible book is. I had never built anything. Back to when I clicked online and saw this honey house, this beehive-shaped dome structure with round arched windows and a door that was so, I went, oh, it's a Hobbit house. I have we talked yesterday. I have a passion for Lord of the Rings, for the trilogy, one of my favorite fantasies. I live in Middle Earth. Middle Earth's not a fantasy, it's real. I live there. And now I've built my Earthbag house. It spoke to me immediately. And what I would on a practical scale, that was the heart had me. On a practical scale, I needed something that I had already envisioned. Where we're sitting now is a frame deck. I have a little, you want to swing it? And I have a little loge garden shed. And I've built a frame open kitchen and area. So for 3 years, that garden shed was my house. I slept, my desk, everything I needed to be dry and warm was in there. I also built this frame structure. I had the kitchen. It's got everything except a refrigerator and a place to put clothes and a place to be cold and wet because the open space there was open on both ends. And it was almost unusable most of the day.
Okay.
So I determined 3 needs. I needed a warm, dry place to sleep. I needed a place, several functions, but same space for quilting, for conversation with friends, for prayer and meditation. And I needed a warm, dry place for shower. So I came up with a design. I had built an 8 by 16-foot coffee deck for drying coffee in Kealakekua, where I had lived before. That was the only thing I'd ever built in my entire life as far as carpentry. And I decided I was going to build an Earthbag house in 2009. Mm-hmm. So I got my Bible out and started. I thought it would take me 3 to 6 months. I ran out of money first, ran out of heart and soul a little bit after that, and quit. Still in 2009, about 3 months into it, I said, I can't do this, and left. The beginning of 2010, I left and moved to Hana on Maui for 2 years. Skip that part of the story. Came back in the spring of 2012 and built this deck and this structure that Mikhail just showed us. And that's become my home for 3 years, during which time I resurrected my determination to build and finish my Earthbag house, and I added another 3 or 4 rows. Got overwhelmed, said it can't be done, and walked away again. In total, over these 8 years, I have quit. Not taken time off, I've quit. I effing can't do this. It's too much. It's a crazy idea. It will not happen. I can't do it. And walked away. My mom passed at the end of 2014, about 6 months after she had come here and spent 9 days living with me in this space. The week before she passed, Mom shared with me in a phone conversation and said, Rick, you have to finish your house. You can't live in a half-finished house. And then she had a heart attack while she was driving a car 5 days later and left us without a goodbye. Her words are in my heart every day. And I always have felt and known that Mom wanted me to finish my house more than I did most of the time. In January of this year, return number 4 happened, but with a new determination, about as almost as well. It was for a while stronger than my Hawaiian quilting because I didn't quilt very much for 4 months while I worked to build this place. I guess you've already seen some video of the outside of my 3-domed earth bag structure. We'll talk about the mechanics in a later segment. Today is May 24th.
I believe
or
it's
25th?
22nd, or maybe.
On May 1st, which is another unique holiday in Hawaii. Not a holiday, not a work holiday. It's a funny day. May Day is known in the United States. Is May Day in Europe? No. May Day is it's about the pole, and I don't know, it's a day for, I don't know. May Day is a day, the 1st of May is known in the United States as a important day. I don't know what for. In Hawaii, May Day is Lei Day. People don't take off work, but when I arrived here 30 years ago, you didn't go to work on May 1st unless you were wearing a lei and carrying a lei for someone. I mean, it was that. Today we hardly do that. That's part of this place changes so much so fast. That's another story maybe.
So they was carrying the lace on the 1st of May, and they don't do it anymore?
We don't do it. I very seldom see people, a little bit, but not like it was even 30 years ago. Sometime in early April, I had to have, when I moved back here in January, I said, by the end of April, I am going to finish my earth bag house and move in. I'm going to live in this wonderful new little space. 3 weeks before that May Day, I sat down with a list of all the things I still needed to do to finish my earth bag house, and I computed how many hours it would take, and I knew that if I worked 50 hours a week for 5 weeks, I could finish it all and have it ready for my house blessing and my housewarming party. And I'd already sent out the invitations, and people were coming in 3 weeks. So that was impossible. So I had to chop the list down and figure out what I needed to do to greet and welcome people at 9 o'clock in the morning for a sunshine day of blessing. Where was I? What were we doing? I forgot the question. May Day is Lei Day.
Well,
So on May Day, 30 friends, neighbors, people that had helped me with construction arrived here in the morning to see the house, to hear chant, to enjoy hula, to participate. We had a traditional Hawaiian, one version of a Hawaiian ceremony. In Hawaii, this is another part of Hawaiian tradition that I don't think extends to every place. When you move into a new place, especially if it's something you built, it's new, but when you move into a new home, it's usually, traditionally, always blessed. One version is to have it blessed by a kahu, a Hawaiian priest. I didn't know of a kahu here this year that I could ask. And I wanted my 30 friends to share in the blessing. So we came up with a version where we had a ceremonial Samoan ava bowl. We put water and Hawaiian red salt from the red earth into the bowl, and then people took tea leaves and dipped them in the bowl and went around in all the rooms where you're going to see in my new earth bag house and splattered salt water up onto the walls to bless the place. And then I had enough food on that counter over there to feed 105 people, and 30 of us ate it, and then I gave food away for 3 days.
I remember you were saying that it was raining really hard in the morning, and then at 8:28, 2 minutes before blessing, it stopped.
For 3 weeks, I sent out my invitations like the end of first week of April. Come. It was a picture of my earth bag house. Come and join me on May Day, on May 1st, for a blessing. Arrive 8:30, blessing and brunch. Come hungry, 9 o'clock. The one thing I heard from probably 28 of those 30 people, 9 o'clock in the morning, why so early? I mean, we've still got blue sky out there. It's approaching 9 now. Back that way, it's already cloudy. Up here on top of the mountain, we can, about 300 days of the year, we have sunrise, sunshine until between 9 and 10 o'clock. And then the next interview, next segment, I promise you it's going to be cloudy and probably already getting cool. This is the typical day. On April 29th, a storm moved in and it started raining. The 29th and 30th, we had something in excess of 20 inches of rain up here.
20 inches in a couple days?
In a couple days. On the morning of May Day, I woke up at 4:30 in the morning to pouring rain and went, oh my God, I can't cancel. I don't even have phone numbers for everybody. It was, the food was all set. It was ready. I couldn't change the date and the time. And it poured. I set up chairs. I moved flowers. I arranged things in drenching. I had to go down and wipe myself off with a towel several times. My first guests were scheduled to come and help me set up the food and serve the food. And when Donna and Tui arrived at 8:30 prompt, it had stopped raining 2 minutes before their arrival. It was still chilly and wet and cloudy. And then people arrived over the next half hour. And as people got out of their cars and came in, the comment I heard over and over was, we almost called you. We didn't think you'd probably have the blessing because it's pouring so hard down in the village that our windshield wipers were on high. And then we got up here and it's not rain. And we had a 3-hour party. We didn't have a drop of rain. It was, and if you ever come and live and spend time in Hawaii, that morning at 4:30, I was pretty sure it wouldn't happen that way. I thought, oh, I'm cursed. I won't get the blessing. We'll have to stand with our newspapers over our head and do this in 5 minutes and then run and not eat. Ua, ka'ua, the rain, before any important occasion, is so sacred, such a blessing. And then I've seen so many times at Merry Monarch, the greatest hula festival in the world. I've been there at the beginning of Merry Monarch when Hilo gets 150 inches of rain a year. It's a wet place. And in spring, in rain season, the beginning of rain season, they have this international hula festival. I've been there year after year when in the afternoon it's pouring rain in Hilo. There's no way we're going to have a hula festival. And it begins at 6, and at 5:55 it quits. There's sunset. It's beautiful. I've seen it happen year after year after year.
So every year it happens this way?
Not every year. I don't think it didn't rain this year. Often it happens. And the blessing of my new temple repeated that, and that's so powerful and so deep.
I like how you call it temple. Well, Mr. Rick, would you like to go to check out your temple?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go there. Let's check it out. Alright, so we relocated inside right now. We inside the Magic Castle right now, as you see, guys. And please explain us, Mr. Rick. So how did you make the house?
This is called an earth bag house. The idea, the concept originated of the modern earth bag house. The concept comes from the Middle East, from arches and from Gothic arches. In, I believe, the 80s in California in the Southwest, people were looking for alternative housing options. And one of the movements that arose was this thing called earth bag house. On the mainland, in most of the world, one of the primary components of soil is clay, and is the existence of clay in earth that allows, you can see in these, you can see the rows. When we go outside later, you'll see the plastic tubing that we put, and on the mainland they put dirt in it, and use a cast iron tamper, and row by row they stack up and create a house. The clay dries very much in the same, without the baking of adobe, very much in the same style of making adobe. There are only two kinds of earth in Hawaii: lava and coral. Our dirt doesn't come from anywhere else. Neither substance contains any clay. So in Hawaii, the people that evolved, and actually there's a building code. I didn't get permits, but there's a building code on this island for earth bag house, and we use cinder, ground lava, the harder lava, which is blue rock. So two kinds of cinder from the volcano rock, and cement. So green, no. We sacrificed green. Cement, of course, is a very caustic chemical. There is no way to build this structure in Hawaii with our inclination for earthquakes and our soil. We could not stabilize these structures with anything other than cement. So what's happened is, with a cement mixer, I've mixed batch by batch and poured it into these tubes, slushed it down, and then in rows taken this cast iron tamper, and it starts boom, boom, boom. And you can hear you can feel it in your hands, and you can hear when it goes thump, and you know it's solid. So row by row, the entire structure, you've seen it from the outside, you'll see it again, is a corbelled dome. So basically the geometry of the Gothic arch, taken in 360 degrees, creates a dome structure that's the most stable structure on this planet, in physical world on this planet. Because of the geometry, the weight down, the pressure that would cause a downward collapse, is equalized by the pressure that would cause an outward collapse. So the two pressures together once capped off at the top. As I always say, someday Pele, our fire goddess. Someday the lava will fill this home. Nothing else will disturb it.
Okay, fantastic. So that was the way how you build it. And I see next to you there is some device that you use to make Hawaiian quilts. Can you please tell us a little bit more about
is
that?
my quilt hoop on a floor stand. Yeah. There you can see there's a stand on the floor. So I bring this over in front of me, and in my lap I've got my quilt up and away from me so that I can work. Mikhail's interest and what captured him was when he saw pictures of this house. And I was explaining to him after our first video, I talked a little bit about my quilting, about my auntie. This house is my temple. This is my prayer. I say that I quilt, that I pray with needle and thread. From 1998, when I met Auntie, to this day, to presumably, I believe, the end of my life, I'm here to make these quilts. And these quilts have evolved. Today, my entire every quilt that I create is with fabric I've hand dyed myself, designed my own pattern, original designs, not mine. I say this over, they're not my patterns. They're given to me. They come to me. I end up, every quilt that I've done, I end up finding out and learning things about the quilt and the pattern that I didn't know when I created it. That's getting in deep into Hawaiian thought, and that's incredibly Hawaiian in its concept.
So you're making different kinds of them. I've seen one of them. I wanted to show like
we've got one on the bed.
Yeah.
My
So
last
this is
one which
made for after a Hawaiian queen, right, Liliuokalani?
all of my quilts are made to honor the life and legacy of our last queen, Liliuokalani.
And you were saying that some music that she wrote, right?
The queen had so many talents. I can make quilts for 2 lifetimes, and each quilt could be about a different talent that this woman, who is the queen of these islands, had. The queen was a song composer and a singer. This quilt is about the story of a secret love affair, and in poetry, Water Lily, the woman, is calling out into the mist. Sanoi, the name of the quilt, the name of the song, is the woman is calling out into the mist. Where are you, my love? You're lost in the, come to me. Tulehua. In the Hawaiian poetry, the red blossoming trees with the tendrils on the flower are the lehua. They are always in Hawaiian poetry the male. So Water Lily is calling to lehua, where are you? Come to me, my lover. It's a beautiful, beautiful song. Co-composed by the great-grandmother of one of my dearest Hawaiian counselor friends and authority on the Queen. So this quilt was made for the Queen, but also to honor Nalani Alua, the 2 heavens. So I've embroidered 2 stars into the quilt to honor my friend.
So they represent your friend?
Yes. Nalani means the heavens. Alua is a play on Elua 2, the 2 heavens. There's more to that, but that's not for here.
And can you please tell a little bit about this ones? This is also your work?
These are not my work. These were gifts made for me in 2013 by a woman in Palestine, West Bank of Palestine. I
Okay.
spent 3 months living there and was adopted and taken in by a Palestinian family in something so precious. 5 boys. The 2 youngest were twins. Oh, just an incredible experience. I had taken gifts for them when I went. I knew that I was going to meet them. I didn't know how dear they would become to me. The woman spent the whole 3 months I was there. The family, Palestinian Islamic families, on Holy Day, which is Friday every week, most Islam in West Bank, Palestine, very traditional, very unbroken in our modern sense of computers and televisions and go, and they've got it. On Friday, families come together, they go to the mosque and pray, they come home, food is prepared, and they spend the whole day together. Youngest from 5 years old to the kapuna, the old folks, together sharing. And I was invited in and able to do that. This woman, the entire time that I was there are 2 of them, identical, had these in her lap and was working on this cross stitch. And on the last week before I left, they were given to me to give to my mother, which I did. And when Mom passed in 2014, now they're mine.
Okay,
That's
wow. So they from Palestine. You spent 3 months over there?
3 months. It was the first time I had ever left the United States of America. Well, Hawaii to California. Technically, I was in the air in international territory, but I didn't land. Coming to Hawaii was still landing in the United States. The first time that I ever left the United States, I was 65 years old and going to West Bank, Palestine, one of the least accessible places on the planet, for an incredible life experience.
Great. Can you please tell a little bit about that thing on the top? Is it like second floor you have in there, or what is it in
When
there?
I got to that point, let me, there I am, 8 feet up. And I realized, I've still got 6 or 8 feet more to go. The entire structure is 18 feet high
18
in
feet.
the middle.
I see there is
And
a
all
window.
of a sudden I realized, this is going to be too much open space. I have space for a room. And so I put this flooring in and made a loft, thinking at the time that the loft would be a 4th room. And when you go up, you have to climb up on a ladder and climb into it. You can, in the very middle row, you can sit with your head upright. If you move a foot this way, you hit the wall, and a foot this way, you hit the wall. So it's not really a room. The 2 possibilities are it'll be for storage. More probably it's going to be a sleeping loft. And because we have a heater, the heat's going to rise. It's going to be a wonderful, cozy, warm place to sleep.
Fantastic. Okay. And how long? So overall, it was about 8 years, right?
8 years. Probably in total, if I had worked start to finish and not quit and walked away, like I said, 3 times I walked away, so 4 times from start to finish that I worked. Probably it took me 1.5 years to 2 years. Not working on average 30 hours a week.
30 hours a week. Okay, it will take about.
That's not scientific, but
I see the flowers in the window. So those actual ohia lihua tree, right?
oh, beautiful! That is Hawaii's most dominant tree. It's
Grows
called
everywhere.
ohia, the tree, and the flower is the lehua. One of the most precious in song, in poetry, in life. threatened right now by a virus that's killing those trees unless they get a virus, and within a week the whole tree is dead. Oh,
So it's rapid ohia death. I've seen some.
rapid ohia.
So that's actually virus causing it.
I believe so. Yeah.
Mhm.
And they haven't found anything, any combat, except trying to contain it and not contain the spread.
Mhm.
It could be devastating for our native forests, which have already been devastated.
Yeah, I see them everywhere. They looks like half dead.
But yes, and many of my quilts, this quilt, and we're not going to go into the story of this one, is about a very rare species. There are 5 species of ohia, and this is the rarest that only grows on the spine of the Ko'olau Mountains, the eastern mountain of Oahu, where Honolulu is. Grows this rare, tiny little leaves, size of my thumbnail.
There's
And
leaves.
these beautiful lehua blossoms. The Queen, I know from, she wrote one of her songs about the path, and she went by horseback at one point up this trail. Whether she got to the summit, we don't have that documented, but I've been assured by authorities at Bishop Museum that the connection of that song to that trail, that making a quilt of this rare lehua is absolutely right on to tie it into the Queen. And those are the kinds of things I look for in my quilt work. And what's so incredible to me today, I've been in this space for less than 3 weeks. It was finished and I moved in 3 weeks ago. Every time I walk through this door and into this space and look up, the image that I have and what enters my heart, I feel as though I've gone into the caves in southeastern France 25,000 years ago. I've had friends say, you should paint horses on the walls. The space has somehow gone from such a life challenge, so seemingly impossible to finish, to something that's so sacred and so precious in my life. And now begins this whole new chapter of sharing. Last night, for the first time, there were 3 friends here. I got tired and went to bed at 9 o'clock. The bedroom's right there. We just saw the quilt. And I fell asleep while 3 friends sat and laughed and shared stories and other substances out here in this room. So precious to my heart. And I know that in the months and years to come, this space is going to be the place and inspiration for so much beauty. You know, that's, maybe this is coming close to the end. You guys have already seen, I started by saying this is a story about heart.
I like how you call it temple. This is your temple.
Yes.
How much energy and love you put in this building, and it's very interesting to see how when you enter every time, then you feel it, you talk about it. Yeah, it's definitely.
And now I wish to share it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're living, this is 2017. We're in the first year of something that's just inconceivable to me. A racist, misogynist, hating, awful man is the head of this country. I almost left and moved to Mexico to be on the other side of the wall. It can bring up such hatred in my heart. And I don't want that to be my response. I want this place and these quilts and the love I feel in my heart to be my message to the earth. I started by saying I didn't come to Hawaii to live in howly heaven. You don't, Drew said in his, you don't come here to find paradise. If you come here to make this place give you paradise, you're probably going to leave. It's too expensive. It's too hard to live here. It's too far away from everything. This place called Hawaii has an energy and a spirit. We call it the Aloha Spirit. Please, my friends, don't underestimate that word. As deep, as wide as this Pacific Ocean that surrounds these islands, that's how much love capacity there is in this space for those of us that take it in and make it our own. And that's what this castle, this temple, and these quilts, I pray will do for me.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing story.
Thank you so much for letting me share.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure, Rick. So, do you mind if we're gonna go outside so you show us the land, the lava? It's amazing how the shape of it, and
Let's do that.
you have even a little cave in there.
Sure.
I've seen today. Okay, let's go ahead. So that's kind of how land looks like on a property. So it's just lava with some ohia trees and some different bushes in here. It feels like it's really empty inside. When I step on it, it feels like it's really thin. Let's go inside. It's super quiet here. It's a little bit cold. There is a ladder over there. So it goes in there too, the further